In December, First World War, marching in and liberating Jerusalem. Liberating Jerusalem. But that is in many ways the opening date of the new begins possibly in 1917. Centenary. November 2nd, 1917, Lord George that we discuss what Balfour is and what Balfour to a homeland. In fact, all of you who are students of Zion established their homeland starts in the previous century. That's 20 years before. People like Moses Hess. The Jews the right to re-establish our homeland. We were doing that anyway. That is our natural. First time a major world power recognized Jewish people have a right to equality among the nations. That we which is the League of Nations mandate, where the British are that in turn leads to what we discussed a moment ago, the 29th of November, with the UN proposal development of our independence. It's an important milestone. Now, I believe that there are many reasons history, especially in British imperial history. There are many things that the British people look at critically. For three reasons. One, right a historic wrong. That the Jews were a persecuted minority. As I say, recognition that the Jewish people strove for their can be proud of Balfour. But it's not just that. Israel is nevertheless a parliamentary free and competitive elections, where there is rule of law. Well, I'm proud to say where you have a vibrant over the last few years of what are British values. British societies are British values. There's 400 million people living in that. Of freedom, of the rule of law, and that is the Jewish state that of their contribution. The third reason I think people can be proud of Balfour is the fact it was created after 1917. In my opinion. To both sides. Investment, the trade, that cooperation makes both that I won't go into detail. And other So having said all that, to apologize for disappointing and unfortunately or you don't have a problem with these questions about Balfour It's a pity. In their narrative, and a legitimate China and Vietnam, or like the Belgian. It's a pity the Palestinians are in that narrative. Palestinians who claim to be pragmatic and claim to be what sort of peace are you? Peace are you offering? I discussed a moment ago, I said Barak, Chairman Arafat. In 2008, there was a further opportunity. In other words, to accept unfortunately, Palestinian leadership said in May, 69. It's fair. The side said no. They're actually exposing a disfavor, a disservice. This platform provided by the Jewish News. We seek a solution. We're ready to start those negotiations. If instead of calling on the British government of coexistence, that they
about this important bilateral relationship. Important that you bring this together, allowing collectively we can cognitively just also say from personal note, this I met when I started this job. Time for him for a bit, and very much enjoyed it, and we wish him all the best in his he certainly will be missed. But when I first spoke about the fact that the posters had actually got that are taking place in America, I think we can all confirm the messaging to gaining the consent of the people themselves rather than the results of elections that count. And the American election, as we've seen, conjured up perhaps a different result. Just after the election itself, but they also had a phone call yesterday talking about a enterprise will absolutely continue. We very much look forward to working with the new huge importance to our country, to Israel, and indeed to the world at large. About working with them. The President-elect has already said he wants to reach a deal taking place. The 23rd of June event, the EU referendum, and it has political perspective into a new landscape, which this generation have an EU membership card in our back pocket. The issues and challenges that we face example, or indeed the challenge of Ebola in Africa, often play. There is a moral duty for us to participate. That we look at these things and provide cognitive solutions. Resolve to help. Flexible. Will be more independent from one perspective, working along to this bilateral relationship, because this included Israel. Between our two countries is a great asset to the UK. Will take the decision to leave the EU as an opportunity to be even more active high-level negotiations, not just government ministers, but also and we had an extremely good exchange, not just myself, but with other members of Parliament as well, with of the opposition, including Isaac Herzog. Very involved as well. They very engaged. But that town for the first time, and also meet your very able to see AFC Bournemouth, a football club that is now doing so well, take a visit. To be able to work so closely with you, Ambassador, and your team. Programs of no fewer than 3 cabinet ministers in the space of a single week that was coming over to the United States. And as the Minister for the entire Middle East, I am pleased to have such a close defence and intelligence partner such as I met in September here in London, welcomed last week when he was on board HMS proper name, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The ability for it to create a nuclear weapon has now increased from a matter of weeks, again. But we will continue to remain vigilant and to encourage Iran matters to us both because the bedrock of our relationship with Israel is our shared values. We also believe in equality, and that is why the ties between our countries continue to grow stronger. We're using Israeli pharmaceuticals in the NHS, and we're putting British Rolls-Royce in Arabic in the country of his birth here 400 years after his death. It's the centenary of his Balfour Declaration. The principle for a Jewish homeland, just as Lord Balfour did nearly a century ago. The UK government must be conscious of the sensitivities around the Balfour Declaration. Words were written in that, but it's been digested and pulled apart so many times by historians. From our perspective, must take a measured Shimon Peres. I think the last prime ministers. Now, I think that to the future. In Belfast's time. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I'll conclude by the necessary and at the same time
briefly engage and on my left right um, now head safe and how to grow and so on. So it's a great asset. And university where I was quite recently, and chief give them all a chance to say a few opening remarks, hopefully not for too long. You know that, as we heard from the two previous speakers, that the nature of innovation was creating and starting up new businesses. So that what's going on globally, and Britain obviously is at the centre of that change. The whole Brexit debate is obviously industrial landscape. So I spent the summer in Hyde new factories and plants and research centres. We had grown into a
I'm going to
received from the Prime Minister a letter written by Prime Minister Cameron. The idea was brought together since then, it was in
Europe in terms of investment coming in, and Israel had been really good at that. Israel, huge respect for founders, and we were pretty much, you know, weeks went on to IPO on the Nasdaq, and just UK or US, etc. And there's a real opportunity there in bringing out there is, you know, the more we create
Alex asked me just to say a word about what I do as well. What financial side of what has become known as Startup Nation. Our crowd is really we do is a little bit different. It's really much more like venture capital. Company. Is, you know, my thoughts on this both ways. You know, Israel about how you're going to go global, because there's no local market, basically, right? Which is great. What's largest economies, and I guess Germany is kind of on the way. But in terms of size and vibrancy, what Israel brings to the table is this vibrancy and sort of hubs of growth where Israeli companies have expanded in Massachusetts, Boston. As Boston as a hub of Israeli technology companies. Employ 9,000. What's going on here, actually, I'm starting to see that happen. They kind of hub together here.
Always look. Wow, what an environment. And we used to go around and see everybody. Years. I'm retailers. The panel, and I don't know who wants to come in first. Both of you have created many leading edge high-tech firms, and yet we don't. And get the same kind of size of digital leaders.
There have been three periods in the last 20 plus years of Israeli high tech. The first period it would automatically, the next round would be going and list on NASDAQ. So from there on, some companies failed, some becomes less relevant. Company, there's quite a few unicorns, still fewer than we would like to, but quite a few. To build large companies, so example of Mobileye, for example, is a company that was actually known $1 billion. So I think that point is
when a bigger enterprise comes in and takes over and is maybe technology of some kind, this applies in the UK too, but some of that technology, the patents, the expertise, lost when those takeovers take place. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, so I'll take that and, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Professor. The question was, you questioned the fact about companies not scaling up as
Yeah.
much as, some other. But I don't, the premise of the question is that somehow there's something wrong with that, which leads to your second question. Well, Israelis are really good at building companies that go to 5, 10. That fundamentally. And my answer to that is, it's really, I don't believe that's the case, because I actually think it has fueled an incredibly dynamic. Centers in Israel. How did that happen? They buy something, they almost inevitably. Example, Apple is a really good example. Apple was a company that was Apple. Several $100 million acquisitions in Israel, and subsequently. At manufacturing centers, of course, all over the world, particularly in Asia, but real R&D is California and Israel. So that's where I think ends up. Of course, there are times when it gets.
There's around 40 unicorns at the moment of the billion-dollar value companies in Europe, which 22 are in the UK, basically. Now that was not the case 20 exit nowadays in tech. But the difference that made was we can go and raise another £4 million fund where we now invest in deep tech startups. Bring them to the UK, find them a co-founder and an idea.
one thing that they're not taking into account. Population that is in tech, and I leave to then for every engineer you have R&D center. One person. So we basically losing, everybody's looking for the Israeli engineers and scientists, and we hit the
Many engineers have left.
No, that's not the issue. That's in Massachusetts. They mostly looking. This is their outpost for the U.S. market, but we actually exporting thousands and thousands. Okay, but
Price
there may be. So there is one aspect of this that is very problematic from the point of view of the government, of the state, and that is that this company is working a lot on that. We're trying to increase the human capital, but until that is happening, we are actually having a
That's what's been said, so I don't think there's a scale-up problem. Look, Nutanix, that's another one that's not been mentioned. They IPO'd recently, their share price nearly doubled overnight. So
To have sponsors, it was brilliant, yes.
So, yeah,
all the cab drivers are using.
Yeah.
say when I used to visitors over to senior visitors over to Israel, he's sitting there and saying, I'll invest in 20 companies, I'll see 20 companies, they all fail, that's a massive success for me. And you could see our executives twitch, just what's going on there? But he said,
Just, in our case, we bring in 100 top tech talent into our program every 6 months. 50% are UK, but 50% are rest of the world. So 50% of them are rest of the world. So they are. It's become a fertile hub of both investment and debt and mentorship. And I think for we are a global world.
So, as we just to move on slightly. Liquid financial centre, deepest markets, and all of that. I mean, how helpful can the UK be in terms of providing access to finance for Israeli companies and vice versa?
Yes, sir. Just
Yeah,
touch on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would actually say that there's for Israeli companies to be selling product, right, and selling product and services, right? So UK cybersecurity, some of the things that Israel is extremely good at. I mean, as you know, in our portfolio, some of our companies are selling actually first and foremost, first to the UK and only then making it to the US. That's number one. I think number two is, and by the way, it's not just financial products, it's cybersecurity and others. I think in terms of financing, look, about 80% or more years ago, and it's been trending, and that money now is actually very broad. You could originally mostly North American capital. And it's extremely important to have a wide range of channels of capital, right? So there may be reasons why a UK yeah. First, to start accelerator programs in Israel. So Barclays now has a startup accelerator. Their second sort of class of startups. I think that's an extremely important piece of the puzzle.
Eugene, does it mean kind of political barriers to foreign investment inside Israel, the sort of the geopolitical? Israel a bit unkosher.
Package from different things that we do. Each of you has one, so we do many things. We host about 40 to 50 large corporations. There is no fault whatsoever. Nobody is thinking. A lot of interest from variety. Where we don't really have relations, but lots of people coming. Newspapers, and the other narrative that you mostly deal with business people, and and I've seen discussion of conflict, and then there is a real discussion of how we can collaborate at some of that innovation. So I don't think it's relevant at all.
So Wendy, I mean, you were making an interesting point before, I thought, about how does an interesting startup access some of that new
funding, how that might fit your initial service or product. It's like, how do I now a lot of those, a lot of the, both accelerated and later stage funds are now funded. And that, one of the fears around Brexit was what will happen to that funding, and the British Business Bank do that. Our other LPs were actually global, so we had a lot coming from the US. What the US was saying, we have some of the best academics and engineers here right now, especially for the future tech.
So you brought me on to my next issue, because I was going to say that, several of you mentioned cybersecurity as one of the places where Israel has developed a big lead, and in fact, in my own daily work, I'm often hearing from banks and big industrial corporations that they're using Israeli cybersecurity to try and protect their systems and so on. But I just wonder what, in both the UK and in Israel, what is the next, what are the next big technologies? I mean, you mentioned artificial intelligence. So I just wonder how each of you sees the next big things to invest in and to watch and to see grow in each of the countries concerned.
Well, just to pick one, biometrics. We received the first generation of biometrics.
So can you describe the biometric
so
stuff?
this is using your physical characteristics to authenticate you, so your eyes, your face, fingerprints, this kind of thing. But one of the things we're now seeing is behavioural biometrics, which is there's some fantastic companies coming out of Israel. I'll name one, Biocash. I mean, banks. Exactly. So, and I know many of the banks.
What's it called?
Biocash. We didn't set this out.
2 weeks ago, it won the first prize in the Singapore FinTech.
Yeah.
But this is the way things are going. So the problem with fingerprints and all the other techniques, they are a bit intrusive. But if you're just watching the way people hold their phones, the way they move the mouse, all this kind of stuff, what browser they use, how they scroll, this is all things you do naturally. But this is a major signature that you have. It's a very unique signature. It's not intrusive, so it's happening all the time when you're constantly being authenticated. I think that's a real key to the future.
Far more business in the UK, interestingly, than the US.
I think 4 of the 5 big banks
Exactly.
are doing business.
Exactly. So I mean, cybersecurity is going to continue to be huge. I think one that's also going to be huge, which is autonomous driving. But I will mention something different actually, and that's actually, I believe, it's already out there, but it really has not hit what I'll call prime time yet, and that's voice-driven technologies. So if you think about a lot of the things we're talking about, whether it's authentication, whether it's autonomous driving, whether it's how we interact with our devices, whether that's a computer or a mobile phone, I'm actually of the belief that in 4, 5, 6 years, it's going to be much more about voice. If you think about the transition that's happened over the last 8 to 10 years, right? Originally, when we all had a computer or a laptop or something like that, and we all did this, right? Now, those who are my age and older still do a lot of this. Right? But what we mostly do now is we have this and we do this, right? And what my belief, and what we started to do a little bit with Siri or with Google is try to talk to it, right? So you talk to, Google this or Siri that or the other. The problem is anybody who's tried to do that hit pretty much its sort of top, maybe the main 90-95% of what it can do. It's not about the fact that it doesn't know how to interpret your words. It knows how to interpret your words if it hears it correctly. But there's a limit to that. So for example, we have a company which we're invested in, which is called VocalZoom. And what it does is it uses an optical sensor to look at your facial movement, your facial muscles, and then can match your movement with your voice to clean out the noise and just give you the signal. whether that's the way to do it or there are other ways to do it, but I do believe in 5 to 10 years, we're just gonna be talking to our devices.
Wendy, did you have some new technology? And you mentioned artificial intelligence. It just explain to us what artificial intelligence does first, and then yeah. Another long, very 2 words, just so
Do we have, how much time do we have?
I think, a non-technical audience.
Roughly at the moment for companies and startups,
Microphone, please.
Sorry. It's really at the moment divided into 2 sort of areas, machine learning and deep learning. So deep learning is the more, I don't know if a lot of you have heard of a company called DeepMind that Google bought. It was a UK-based company. And DeepMind beats it basically, it's more the idea that it can actually learn, and it behaves more, I suppose, how a layman would think about a human being. How can we mirror how a human being thinks? And DeepMind beat the world Go master recently. It's a much more complex set of game than chess, which is, who's been beating us for years. What's interesting is they applied the same algorithms to Google's infrastructure. So, for example, all their massive server rooms and all their fans and heating and air conditioning. And they said to DeepMind, here's a game. Can you optimize how these systems are managed? And it played this game, I think it's been happening for a long time. And eventually it came up with a solution for how all these different services can be managed. And it improved, I think, performance by about 20%, but that was worth £4 billion to Google. I mean, you've got that sort of thinking and learning. The difference with artificial intelligence and ours is that it can take so much data across such a massive set and process that it can do things like look across all of Google services. And you can start to imagine that applied to every single industry. I think Eric Schmidt, obviously he's a bit biased, but I do like what he's saying here, said, companies that are not thinking about the impact on that business today are already going to be half dead in the water. They actually really need to think about, I don't care whether it's fashion, whether it's finance, whether it's medical. We have numerous companies working on medtech using computer vision and machine learning. So we've got one company, for example, we could take a whole set of radiology images and actually improve the accuracy of picking out cancer early, but also report and manage on that. And the biggest problem the NHS has around radiologists is that it's highly local, you don't have enough to deal with the situation. And so the costs are high, the accuracy becomes low. Deep learning will solve things like that in the future. I think it's worth thinking about if you have a business, how that will eventually be applied to the sector.
Choosing companies that compete with Israeli.
Eugene, so if AI is a big thing in the UK, what's the next big thing in Israel?
In Israel, I think we have chosen three areas in which we specialize because we believe that the potential is much bigger than what's currently, and they are sort of a little bit surprising, even though most of them deal with big data and artificial intelligence. One of them, Ilan mentioned, is autonomous driving, smart driving, which Israel has a very strong position. It's probably the first time that Israel has a very strong position in an infrastructure industry that is going to undergo tremendous change because of that, a bunch of various technologies. The other one is digital health. We have about 400 companies in digital health, and it's an industry that basically quadrupled itself in the last 4 years. We believe that we're actively working to connect them to real problems, as well as to financing, as well as to create the critical mass. And the last time is surprisingly agri-tech, because Israel has enormous advantage in figuring out how to grow more with much less, which is what the world is coming to. So we had to do it because we had to, from the beginning, we had much less. And so combining that with an IT and sensoring and big data creates precision agriculture and all kinds of technologies that are incredibly high potential to solve many of the world's existential sustainability problems. So I think those three will be much bigger in Israel in the coming years.
When we were talking before, you mentioned the idea that this tech expertise only employs a small portion of the population. I was just going to raise that issue in a kind of broader political context. But in Israel you have large bits of the population who are disenfranchised. The Israeli Arabs, a bit more disenfranchised. The Haredi community disenfranchised. And in Britain, at the moment, we're talking about the just about managings in Britain. And I just wondered if there were ways that we can use, you know, the experiences that we have in both Israel and Britain to bring in these more left out groups into the success which technology is producing in both countries. So I don't know who would like to tackle that particular problem.
Maybe it starts, it's grassroots, it's really, you know, educating kids around science subjects and encouraging them. So it's sponsoring kids going through the showcases. So I think this is where you can start to, you know, seed those elements into children's minds, and that will eventually play through, so that the jams will suddenly have I understand this technology, and I've been living with this technology. There's a possibility that I can move into that kind of career and it can improve my prospects in the future. So I think technology's got a big part to play in this.
I'll mention a couple of things, but I wouldn't pretend to be an economist. There's a couple of them here. I don't even play one on TV, so I'll tell you my impressions and sort of witnessed Israel. And accelerators. The government sponsored with private capital as well, and the government has done this both, you know, for sectors but as well as geographies. So, for example, the government set up a cybersecurity incubator down in Beersheba. Of course, it's also connected to the university. The reason why it's now franchise, or more people there, we'd like to create jobs. So, for example, the government has done a huge job trying to support both Israeli companies but also foreign companies in setting up their shop or their headquarters in development zones. So there are tax breaks for that, and again, there will be debate, you know, amongst economists, does it work or not? For example, Intel has its two, you know, large, many places in Israel, but in Kiryat Gat, which is certainly a development town, they have a huge fab there, and it's created thousands of jobs. They also set up in Jerusalem, when Jerusalem was also a development town, still is, in terms of a lot of the population that you're talking about, that need job creation. The other thing I've seen is in the private sector. As Shal mentioned, for example, the government has set up an incubator in Nazareth, right, for the Arab sector. So it funds and accelerates Arab enterprises. And you do see it's been a successful initiative, and they, you know, very successful in hiring a lot of good software engineers in Ramallah.
When did you jams, left out people? How do you bring access to larger populations?
Yeah, I probably have a short term and a longer term from this. So I think short term, there was definitely this disenfranchised population. I mean, we've been talking about the sort of extreme end of tech here and investment and startups, etc. There's a whole swathe of population that, you know, digital is just a fundamental part of life now. Whether you're using accounting services, those services are there, and that level of basic digital education needs to be there for everybody, so they can actually access it. Otherwise, you create a massive divide immediately. So I think from a school's point of view, I think we need to do much better at thinking about how we don't just train our children to code. Not, you know, to be quite honest, with things like AI and algorithms, very few people can be good enough to really code at that level. We're going to have to teach people a much broader sense about how to use technology. I think that the government actually, so I sit on the government digital board, is looking pretty hard at how to provide better citizen services. You know, whether you go as extreme as Estonia and you can do all your voting and proxy online, or whether it's just as basic as at least the government has one idea of who you are, and they know who you are when you try and log in and do your tax return, then it's just how can you improve basic services for people? I think we need to bring them in. I've got a bigger issue probably on that, hopefully longer term, economically, which is the truth is, you know, the 6 biggest companies now in the world, you know, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, etc., also now Tencent in China, sitting on massive cash piles, and the taxation system does not work to redistribute that anymore. I don't know if you know that. What are we going to do policy-wise globally to actually shift that redistribution? Because it's only going to get worse. I think you were starting to talk about the point that a large value company can now have a lot less employees. So it's certainly not being redistributed through salary. So what are we going to do with that? And actually, things like Brexit, the thing that scared me about that is, Europe may have had a chance of having a more European taxation or redistribution system, and now we've sort of broken that. So who's going to take that accountability? Is it going to be the corporates? And this is and I think for me, I've got 12 and a 9-year-old, I care a lot about that. We can't just sort of brush it off. It's their future we're actually going to support.
So the comments,
actually deal with sort of the creation of these huge, small employment, huge profits entities. I would like to separate two issues. One issue is how do we create people that are more entrepreneurial, and how we create people who can work. These are two issues actually on the opposite side of the equation, because those who become entrepreneurial, they become the demand for the human capital rather than supply. And that encouraging entrepreneurship and encouraging human capital preparation are two separate and distinct issues. So on the human capital, on the entrepreneurship, we actually see much more beginnings. You know, I visited Nazareth 5 years ago to make the government, and came, there was nothing. There was one company, Galil Software, which was actually doing outsourcing. I visited them 3 months ago, and in the same place there are 65 startups, some of them exceptional quality, very high level technology. People came from various countries. So there's an accelerator, it's investment funds. Microsoft moved there, Amdocs, which is 25,000 people company, moved their office, and more and more company moving there because of shortage of human capital. And so those two things go together. The problem in Israel is that the tech industry, and it's perhaps less here, is very much a closed network. And so people get into it, get jobs through word of mouth, through their friends, most of whom were acquired in the army. I was in the government, I've written a report, my team written a report, I sort of signed a report, and that identified this problem. The report was adopted by the government in 2012. So as government So we're moving in to take all these not disenfranchised, but underserved population, whether, by the way, women is the biggest underserved population. And only about 15% of women in the tech, where Orthodox, etc. Basically, the majority of the population doesn't get access to it, not the minorities. So this is a huge loss, but it's also a great opportunity because we have now huge untapped talent that we can tap into. Which is not only Europe, it's more.
I think this is something that it's a system.
In some IP box in Cayman Islands or
That's
in Isle of Man, IP intellectual property. But it should be either connected to where it was created or where it is used to manufacture stuff. So since Israel is where a lot of this IP is created, we're smart and we are trying to advise the government, we can get a lot of benefit, and also with the countries that create IP, which is the UK, as well as manufacturing. In Israel, we don't really manufacture based on IP apart from.
So just one final very quick question, because we've run out of time. It's one, the elephant in the room, we have to mention it. Is Brexit going to be good for Israel-UK relations or bad?
I think it's going to be fine. I don't think anything's going to change. I mean, we've already touched on it. You know, technology sort of, it's almost, you know, lightning strike proof. What goes around it, I can't decide. I think it's going to be good whichever way you go.
Ilan?
I tend to agree. I think technology transfer between the two countries and buyers and sellers of good technology and collaboration in building companies will continue. I think that London is going to remain a very, very strong financial hub. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but and I think it'll be a huge hub for very large global companies. And if that's the case, you're going to continue to see that cross-pollination between the two places.
When do you study, if you have some concerns about this? Just briefly.
I think there were concerns around what happens about talent and visa, what happens about funding, obviously the free market situation. I think the government said very strongly it's going to carry on with support funding. It's actually already proven that well in the reform committee through the UD. In terms of visas, we already have two exceptional and entrepreneurial talent visa systems that works very well for bringing in the sort of talent, sort of the more academic talent in. I think the issue is going to be we need more people than that to drive the country. And I think in terms of Israel and the UK, what Brexit does is refresh the conversation. That's why we're all here. I mean, in a way, it gives us a new chance to talk about and focus on the relationship. And I think that's a good thing. I think we will, one thing about the second space is very adaptive and innovative. It will find new opportunity. And I think it's great to refresh the conversation so we can have the dialogue.
Professor?
I don't know whether Brexit will be good for Britain or not. There's much written about that, but I think it's actually going to increase the vitality of Britain and Israel relations in the tech space, because now Britain will have to be much more competitive for its financial industry, for its other industries, in order to, because it's sort of going to lose certain perks and gain more independence. And as Israel is a producer of sort of innovation of disruptive type, I think there will be more demand from the British side to cooperate from that with Israel.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank the panel for giving us, on behalf of Jewish News and BICOM, for giving us this time and some very interesting views right across the space, from social inclusion to new technologies and cooperation between the two countries in this area. So thank you very much indeed.